I'm no tech genius, but I knew if I wanted my business to crush it, I needed a website now. Thankfully, Bluehost made it easy. I customized, optimized, and monetized everything exactly how I wanted with AI. In minutes, my site was up. I couldn't believe it. The search engine tools even helped me get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, you can set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what do you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com. That's BLUEHOST.com to start now.
Could the Tradwife movement help strengthen the American family unit? I'm just asking the question.
Being a traditional wife is so much more than just cooking and cleaning and wearing house dresses.
Does that say you were putting on makeup for an hour and a half to not go anywhere?
We gotta go to the grocery store.
You said you submit to your husband.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not trying to start trouble. Okay, picture this. A massive Category 5 tornado spinning across the fields. You can see it. A dark funnel cloud twisting, accelerating, uprooting homes, cars, cows, causing even more damage. That's how I picture what's happening to the American family today. We are in a vicious cycle that is spinning families out of control. Now, in the 60s, 73% of all children lived in two-parent homes. Today, that number is down to 46%. Now, how do we get the American family to stop spinning out of control? There's a trend that's taken social media by storm, but has feminists up in arms. It's called the Tradwife, largely made up of millennials and Gen Zs. They're women who are choosing to leave the workforce behind so they can be full-time homemakers. They adhere to traditional gender roles and put their spouse's needs first. Could the Tradwife movement help strengthen the American family unit? I ain't saying that's the answer. I'm just asking the question. Some women say no way. They believe the Tradwife lifestyle turns women into second-class citizens and is a front to everything women have fought for over the past 100 years. And women have fought a lot of hard battles, from the ability to own property to the battle for equal pay, to the right to vote. Women have fought to even have a credit card in their own name. I mean, look at all the things that women have fought for. But first, Estie, she is the face of the Tradwife movement. She is very, very popular on social media with over 25 million views. Estie says she's trying to teach women and men that going back in time will make our society a better place. Take a look.
A couple years ago, I was in college pursuing meteorology. That was considered great. A couple years ago, I was into the bodybuilding industry and I was into fitness modeling. That was awesome. However, when I decide I want to drop out of college and become a traditional wife, and my only goal in life is to be an amazing wife and mother, that's when eyebrows seem to raise. Being a traditional wife is so much more than just cooking and cleaning and wearing house dresses. We wives budget down hard. There is times where you don't get what you want, and that's okay. So instead of always spending all this crazy money at a coffee shop, we make our coffee at home for the most part. That doesn't mean we don't go out to a coffee shop like ever. My husband took me out for my birthday, and you know what? I did get a coffee, and it was expensive because it was my birthday, and that is okay. Another thing traditional wives love is aprons, because these aprons are like our house uniforms. We know when we put those aprons on, we mean business. If you are a career woman, you are sacrificing time at home for your career. And same with traditional wives, we are sacrificing a career for more time at home. Women should have the choice to be homemakers or not without being judged. And women should also be able to use the term tradwife, which means traditional wife, and not be shunned for wanting to be more traditional.
Well, Estie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, so tell me, you think the Tradwife movement, and Tradwife is like a hashtag, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, right?
Yes.
So this is a big deal on social media. Why do you think it's controversial?
I think that it comes from both a positive side and a negative side. I think that it is gaining a lot of attention because a lot of women are realizing that being a wife and a mother is enough, and you don't have to have a career as a woman to feel fulfilled. But I believe it's also getting controversy because a lot of people are thinking that it's bringing women back in time to second-class citizens, and that's simply not true.
Well, so what are they getting wrong? What are they missing that makes this a good thing?
Well, you are not a second-class citizen being a traditional wife. You are embracing a role at home, and you are a wife, and you're a mother, and you're taking care of your home. You're doing the cooking and the cleaning. And if somebody's not doing it, or the wife is not doing it, then somebody has to come in the home and do it anyways. So it's a very valid and fulfilled role.
You actually go on social media and promote this, right?
Yes, I do.
And that's kind of a job.
It's more of a hobby.
But you have 100,000 followers or more, right?
Yes.
On different platforms.
Yes.
And do you monetize that?
I do. TikTok pays me anywhere from $50 to $180 a month, and then YouTube pays me $300 a month.
Well, you need a manager. You've got 57,000 followers. You've got 7 million views. So you put out quite a few videos, and a lot of people look at them.
Yes.
What do they say?
A lot of women support this. A lot of women want this, and they are so happy that there's a woman out there online. And there's plenty of women doing this, but they're really happy to find other women online who are promoting this and saying that this is a great thing to do, and they're happy, and this is enough. On the negative side, you have a lot of people thinking that this is a white supremacy movement, and it's linked to white supremacy. That this is dangerous for women to be financially dependent on their husband.
White supremacy. Here are some of the positive comments. Beautiful, compassionate, inspiring, my favorite, awesome, favorite account, love, inspiration, wonderful, my dream. A lot of really positive things.
Absolutely.
On the negative side, really sad, brainwashed, bullcrap, so wrong, stupid, crazy, dumb. Is this for real? Tradwife equals sad wife. So some people get exercised about this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you answer them?
Sometimes I'll get in a mood and I'll go back at them a little bit, but often I ignore them. And actually, when you have a lot of support online, people will defend you, and you don't actually have to.
Yeah. What's the meanest thing you've ever said back?
I want to say get a life, but that's not true. Can't remember.
Yeah, I bet you can't. Okay. Estie says a day in the life of a Tradwife is really very busy. You are busy. Did that say you were putting on makeup for an hour and a half?
Yes. Makeup and hair, yeah.
To not go anywhere?
Well, you gotta go to the grocery store.
And you said you don't ever wear sweatpants?
I have one pair, and I don't wear it often, no.
Why are you hiding your face?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just curious. Okay, you said you submit to your husband.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a tick. It's not. I'm not trying to start trouble. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think the term submit has gotten such a bad rep, and it's gotten completely twisted in the media. I actually blame the twisting of this word from the porn industry, and it has this weird BDSM connection, and
A lot of people think it's degrading and that the woman is less than a man, but biblical submission is what traditional wives talk about. And that means that the husband has the ultimate authority in the home. And this is from the Bible. And there's a lot of different opinions about that, but in my marriage, we follow that.
Yeah, well, the Bible says women submit to your husband, but then it says husbands love your wives as you love the church.
Absolutely.
So there's a duty on both. When we come back, Estie's husband says he's the envy of all his friends. We'll find out why, like we don't know, when we meet him next.
You can have a wife who stays home, adheres to traditional gender roles, but she might not believe in submitting to her husband. One of the differences with traditional wives is our priorities and our values. Christian traditional wives believe in biblical submission, and this does not mean the wife is of less value than the husband, but our husbands do have the most authority in our marriages.
Estie is what is called a Tradwife. Now that's short for traditional wife who chooses to live a lifestyle that has a lot of women seeing red. Not everyone, but a lot of women seeing red. Now, Tradwives have turned away from feminist ideals in favor of homemaking and taking care of the family. Now, Estie says that is not being a second-class citizen. It is not at all a bad thing. Now, she's been married to Connor for a year, and he says this lifestyle is exactly what he wants.
My life as a traditional husband is great. I have a clean home to come home to, and I also have food on the table.
We're making some pasta from scratch.
It puts a smile on my face when I get home that my wife is prettied up for me. She's done her makeup and has a pretty apron on.
Why wouldn't we dress up to see the most important person of our life, which is our husband?
I think most men would like to have a traditional wife. My coworkers that have actually said, like, man, you're super lucky. I want a lifestyle like you.
My husband does not have to lift a finger when he is at home.
When I met Estie, I was 20 years old and Estie was 22.
I was going to college to please my parents, but I secretly wanted to be a traditional wife.
Before I met Estie, I never really dated, not even casually dated, but when I met Estie, I knew that she was the one and that we were a match made in heaven.
We don't do opposite sex friendships. I don't think a woman needs to have a male best friend.
A modern man would feel much more insecure than I do as a traditional husband.
I don't mind at all when I have to call you and check in and make sure you're okay with me going somewhere.
In our marriage, we don't have arguments. I'm the leader of the marriage. I'm the one that's responsible for coming up with a solution. And Estie does not ever talk back to me.
I submit and I serve my husband.
I'm sorry. So why was a Tradwife important to you?
When you raise a family, her taking care of the children, staying home with the children, coming home to a well-cooked meal, clean house, and just having a wonderful life and living life and loving your family and your wife.
And how did you bring this up?
I brought it up on our first date, actually. Yeah, surprisingly, yeah, I did.
Really?
Yes, I did, yep. And we talked about it for like 2 hours on our first date, and we both loved the idea of it, and that was a goal that we wanted to work towards.
And you say you don't have any arguments.
I wouldn't say that we don't have any arguments.
Well, you did say we don't have any arguments.
Or disagreements, but I come up with the solution to solve that, disagreement, or when we have a disagreement on something, I'm gonna be the person to come up with a solution so it doesn't lead into an argument.
And that's because you're the repository of all knowledge, or what? How does that work?
You just, you just think that you love each other, and you need to figure out a way to put whatever you guys are disagreeing about behind you, and
do what you want.
Do what I want.
Well, that's what you said. You come up with the solution.
We come up with a solution, but it's not always what I want. I want to make my wife happy, That's my job as a husband to make my wife happy and love my wife more than anybody or anything.
Yeah. Well, we had that kind of agreement. We decided I would make all the important decisions and she would make all the rest. We just haven't come up to any important decisions. And that's worked out really great.
It's a very balanced life. I think people think it's extreme to have one person at the head of the household, but it's very natural and it's been done for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. You say when Estie goes out at night, you go with her.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the world we live in nowadays has got, so many things out there that could happen to somebody, especially a woman. And you also have car crashes, all this stuff. I want to make sure that she's safe to get to where she needs to go, especially at nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think about modern feminism?
I think it hurts a lot of things. I think it hurts masculinity in general. I think it hurts the traditional roles that we live. I think that, and I think it hurts masculinity because the woman is more the leader than the man. Men are born to be leaders. A masculine man needs to be a leader, and he needs to walk with God. And he needs to be able to protect his wife at all costs. And that's what my take is on it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you would ever support her having a career outside the home?
I would support my wife in whatever I need to support my wife in. But, that's why I married the woman I married, because we chose this lifestyle and this is what we love.
Yeah. You think you would ever want to work in some other capacity?
Well, I wouldn't.
You certainly work hard now.
I work hard, yes. I wouldn't say my life is hard by any means, but...
No, but I mean, I saw your schedule.
I do believe women should be busy at the home, and I would not want a career because I truly am fulfilled in this role, and especially when I soon become a mother, that role will be even more fulfilled, and that whole chapter will open up a whole new world for me and so much more happiness, and we just look forward to that.
Yeah. Do y'all plan to have a family?
Yeah.
We do.
How many children?
I would say around 3 children. That's the ideal, but if it's more, then it's more, and we'll love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do y'all do for fun?
So I hunt, I fish, and I spend time with my beautiful wife here. We love to go to the mountains and go to vineyards and just have a wonderful time up there.
Yeah. What do you do for fun?
I do go hunting with him every now and then. I never thought I would like it, but it's fun to take part in your husband's hobbies, and he enjoys it, and I love seeing him happy.
We're going to hear from some other women that have different viewpoints when we come back.
When I was younger, I grew up in a traditional Indian community, and there were both housewives and career women in these families, and they always said how accepted and appreciated both housewives and career women are in India. I've also nannied for quite a few Indian families, and they've all said the same thing. So what is it about the West that wants to devalue traditional wives?
Okay, well, that was Estie. She's married to her husband, Connor. They've been married now for about a year. She's embraced the role that's referred to now, on the internet at least, as a tradwife. Maybe a new term, an old trend, very traditional. It's been around for thousands of years, and not a bad thing, it's just a little different than we see today. Just 5% of children were born to single mothers in 1960. Today, that number is 46%. It's a debate many women are having on whether it's a trend that should stay or go. Now, Neha says that she doesn't like this new trend. She says tradwives are looking back to the 1950s with rose-colored glasses and romanticizing a time that really wasn't so great for women.
Tradwives on social media are selling a huge lie. Tradwives say that the woman's place is in the home as a homemaker, but what tradwives are actually doing by producing all of this high-quality social media content is working, is generating income, and that's disingenuous to their followers. The Tradwife movement is essentially prescribing that men should be the dominant force in the home and that women are to be homemakers and subservient to them in almost every matter. I don't think that there is any beauty in second-class citizenship. Tradwives are absolutely looking back to the 1950s with rose-colored glasses. Women in the 1950s were being so oppressed by both society, their husbands, themselves, and that's the reason so many women were miserable and self-medicating. So it's calling back to a time where someone like me would have a hard time existing in society. In many other cultures, traditional gender roles are very present, but what goes along with that are high rates of domestic violence, financial control, and the inability for the woman to really be able to live her truth.
If he says no and puts his foot down, then the answer is no.
The Tradwife movement is a huge affront to all of the hard work that women and even lots of men have been doing for decades in order to get women equal rights.
Well, thanks for being here. Not a big fan of Tradwives.
Not the biggest fan of Tradwives, no.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be a wife and a mother and stay at home and even embracing traditional gender roles. But there is something very dangerous in women being beholden to those gender roles because across different cultures where there is more adherence to traditional gender roles, there are higher rates of sexual abuse, sexual violence, domestic violence, and financial abuse. And I think Tradwife culture is kind of an affront to all of the really hard work that advocates and activists have been doing for the last 50, 60, 70 years.
We talked about that a little bit, and I actually made a list of some of those things because some of this has happened so much more recently than people realize. It was 1839, they could have marital assets. 1916, women elected to Congress for the first time. 1920, 19th Amendment to ratify the vote started. In 1948, enlisted in the Air Force. It wasn't until 1963 that the Equal Pay Act, in theory, abolished disparity in wages, in theory. It was 1974 before a woman could have a credit card in her own name. Then Supreme Court Justice in 81, 83, American woman was in space. 97, woman Secretary of State. So these things have just been coming on just within this generation. So some of this stuff is hard fought and recently won.
That's right, yeah. The thing that jumps out to me as being the most problematic is that, to have a platform and monetize such a big platform and be spreading a message that women should be second-class citizens in their own homes and be submissive and subservient, and then that is sort of the natural social and biological order. I think that's extremely harmful, and it's also just not true.
And you say that's not how people should look at that. That it's not a second-class citizen.
Correct. I disagree because the idea that, separate but equal, the last time we heard the argument of separate but equal as a social framework was during Jim Crow. So there is no space in a contemporary and modern society for separate but equal. That's just my opinion.
Pew Research did a study recently that asked people what they value in the different sexes. And it was an anonymous survey so people could actually be honest about this. And I was really surprised at what they saw. They said, what traits or characteristics do you think people in our society value most? And in men, number one was honesty and morality, 33%. And then 23% was second, professional and financial success, ambition, leadership, strength, toughness, hard work, good. With women, number one was physical attractiveness. And at the top over here was honest and morality. Over here, it was all the way down to number 4 at 14%. So this battle's still going on, right?
The battle's still going on, and what I think is interesting is that instead of relying on an adherence to what this data is showing, my point is that, we should be challenging the social conditions that allow for this data to be the way it is in the first place.
Yeah, and you think Tradwife just plays into this?
I think it reinforces it, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got some other voices that are going to share their thoughts about this. A conservative mom who says Tradwives aren't living traditional lives and calls it a weird online fetish. We'll hear what she means by that when we come back.
It is not uncommon for traditional wives to supplement their husband's income. The key word here is supplement the husband's income. It's not going to be enough to obviously live off of, but it can help. So while we may supplement our husband's income, it does not come before our home, our family. That is our number one priority.
Well, that was Estie. She has over 150,000 followers and growing. She says she's making some money as a content creator. Does that go against the Tradwife movement? Now, some say it does. Now, Neha says that she isn't the only woman who thinks this movement is setting women back to a time when they had much fewer rights. Now, Allie is a conservative Christian commentator, author, speaker, and podcast host. And Mara oversees 500 employees, including her husband. Both women say the Tradwife movement, well, it's just not for them. Allie, you've been listening to everything we've been talking about. What's jumping out at you?
Yeah, so I am a conservative Christian, and I do believe in traditional gender roles as defined by the Bible, and I do work outside the home. So I guess maybe you would categorize me somewhere in between sourdough starter and girl boss. And yes, at the end of the day, my husband is the head of our household. He is the leader of our family. And so when it comes to those big decisions and when push comes to shove, he's the one that takes the lead.
And do you feel second class because of that?
Not at all, not at all. My husband loves me and respects me very well. And he actually we work together, so he's kind of my business manager. And he has always been immensely supportive of what I do. He would probably say that's part of why he fell in love with me. And so we just work well together.
Yeah. Mara, what's your take on all of this?
My take is a lot different. I come from a home where I was raised by a single mom. So I watched my mom take over the household. In fact, my father died when I was 6 years old. So if I had to ask you a question before I continue answering yours, my question for you would be, what would happen, heaven forbid, your husband wasn't there, whether you got divorced or he died, then what happens? Would you be able to upkeep the household? I mean, where would that leave you?
I believe that no matter if you are a traditional wife or a modern woman with a career, if your husband were to pass away, everything goes to scrap, and you have to start over no matter what. Like, if your home was depending on two incomes, you would still have to sell your home. You would still have to figure it out. So no matter what, I do believe that there is a change that's going to happen, and a huge change. But in terms of traditional marriage, a lot of women would go back to under their father's roof, their biological parents' roof, and figure it out from there. I'm not incapable of course, making money. Obviously, I did not finish my college degree, so I don't have a degree. I don't have much work experience besides nannying, which obviously I guess is not super applicable, but I would figure it out and I would pray, and the Lord has a purpose no matter what happens to you.
Right, that's interesting, yeah. So for me, right, I do believe in God. I have the same pretty much traditional values, but in my case, I feel like being a businesswoman is only a part of who I am. It doesn't define me. So being a housewife, while I respect all of that, I also feel like for me, I need to be happy with me in order to maintain a happy life, right? So a lot of that includes, yes, I tend to my husband, but you know what? My husband also tends to me. We do it together. My husband doesn't always take the lead. I am his boss at work. But you know what? I feel like a marriage is a partnership, and when we do it together, we have double the results. It's not just one relying on the other, but really relying on each other to encompass an entire life together. So a little different from the way that you're brought up. And on your Instagram, you talk about society and pushing independence on young children. So my question to you is, this ideology that you have, is this something that you would, if you have a daughter, is that something that you would press upon your daughter to become a Tradwife, or would you be supportive as to whatever she chose to do?
I would definitely want my daughter to prioritize her family, her home, her husband above all else. I would want to instill confidence so that she could choose the right husband, because that ultimately is the most important thing in this lifestyle, is marrying the right man and understanding your man's character before you marry. But I believe that a lot of women do have rose-colored glasses on when they're dating, and then when they get married, this is when they have this crisis of, who did I marry? What is gonna happen? And they believe in a backup plan, and they don't have that confidence within their marriage.
Yeah,
And
getting papers on him doesn't change him. Trust me. All right, coming up, we're going to meet a man who says that he had to leave the U.S. to find the perfect tradwife. And we're going to ask him how that's going. We'll find out.
My name is Austin, and I support the Tradwife movement. I think traditional wives are pillars of the family unit and the community, and I would love to one day be able to provide the means and space to have that role in my household. The main reasoning is I think raising a family is an art form and is a hard job and time well spent. Nothing against dual income households, but I think about that extra 40 hours a week that could be spent on local communities, on your family, on raising children, which is a very difficult job. And like I said, it's time well spent that I think I would love to have a part of my family unit in the future.
Well, that was Austin, who's traveling the world in search of the perfect tradwife. So since he's traveling the world, he's joining us virtually from the Philippines.
Hey, Dr. Phil.
What kind of wife you looking for?
Well, you get the traditional wife. I think there's a spectrum, right? I think you can take the most extreme version of a traditional wife or someone who's not, and I think it's in the middle. I think you're allowed to choose a spectrum and be flexible. I don't think it has to be as extreme or extremist as people want it to stay.
So you say your love life has blossomed outside the U.S.
Absolutely, yeah. I think after the pandemic, I was able to work remote and I started traveling the world. I started in Colombia. I got to go with my family to Spain, Mexico, Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam. And, I was single at the time. So there's dating apps now. I got on Tinder and I started meeting up with locals because I thought, who knows the culture better? And they were able to show me amazing places around the world. And I was able to meet a ton of people, make a ton of friends. And now I'm in a long-term relationship.
Oh, so you've got somebody that you're serious about?
Yeah, I have someone that I'm serious about now.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll watch how this goes along. Coming up, is going back to a traditional family paradigm a good thing for our society or a bad thing? I'll tell you what I think when we come back. Tonight we're talking about kind of a new social media trend, Tradwives. Now, look, I've always said different strokes for different folks. You got to find something that works for you. And there are some things that are happening in our society now that I'll tell you are all around unhealthy. There are some trends of much more cohabitation now where people aren't married, and the statistics don't lie in this regard. If you have non-biological relatives involved, there's high risk of abuse for the children. If you have a bio mom living with a man, the risk of abuse of small children in the home is 33 times normal. Fatal assaults by stepfathers are 100 times greater than they are by biological fathers. You got 1.5, 2 times a child of divorce will engage in risky sex behavior. So if you have children that go through some of these experiences in life, you have to control those you can, because children that grow up in a single parent home can absolutely thrive. They can absolutely do well in school. They can absolutely learn all the things they need to do to have a wonderful life, but you just need to be aware there are some risk involved. You're a perfect example. You've been through some of these things, and it clearly changes who you are, but you have to adapt to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it depends on how you do your parenting. For me, my kids are everything. I would say they come before my husband. They are the number one reason that I am successful. They're the number one reason that I am okay with being in a male-dominated industry, because I want to show my daughter especially that it's very, very important. I mean, as women, we fought for so many years to seek equality and to be in a workforce where you're even looked at the same way as a man. So, again, while I respect the whole Tradwife tradition, and as a product of somebody that was brought up by a very strong woman, I feel like, the Tradwife tradition is one thing, but it's still it doesn't compete with being an independent woman. We've worked so hard to acquire that title, and it is the way that we raise our children. For me, I want to leave behind a legacy that my daughter sees and she's very proud of. I want her to be independent. I want her to know that, unfortunately, in life, things do happen. Parents do die. You do get divorced. It's not always rose-colored glasses. It's not. And I believe you're young. You're 27, right? And the way that I was at 27 is completely different how I was when I was 30 or how I am now. Everything changes. Things do change. We evolve. And with that being said, I feel it's really important, and I continuously instill in my daughter, even after her going through a divorce and me being remarried and living in a household where I was brought up by a single parent, it is very, very important that a young child, because of society and all the social media and all the things that they see, it's super important that we let our children form their own identity before having that relationship where they are relying upon a man. And that's okay, that's fine. But I think acquiring their own identity is superior before anything else.
No doubt. Final thoughts after the break. We're back and we're talking about a Tradwife movement. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? That's for you to decide. Robin and I have been together for 50, been married for 47. That's right?
That's right.
Okay. Just checking. And people ask me, what's the formula for success in a relationship? And there's a lot of ways to answer that question, a lot of ways to define it. But one way that I think applies to everybody, if you take all the value systems out of it and look at it practically, the formula for success in a relationship is a function of how well it meets the needs of the two people involved. If one person is getting their needs met 85% and the other one's getting their needs met 15%, one person's going to be having a great time and the other one's going to be really frustrated. So you got to really look and say, not just how's this working for me, but how's it working for them? And that means that it's a negotiation, and the negotiation never ends because you change across time. And that means you have two jobs. Job number one is you have to teach the other person what your needs are, and you have to work real hard to discover the needs of your partner. And man, if you look at your partner and they don't have a smile on their face, you might want to think about changing what you're doing. And across time, that works really well. This is not a 50-50 deal. It's a 100-100. Everybody has to work towards this. Marriage isn't for everybody. I think that if we really work at our family, whether it's our nuclear family or we get married and it's a family, everybody has to realize we got to make an effort at this. It doesn't just happen. And we can't get distracted by everything going on around us. And I think the family is the backbone of America. And I think we really have to focus on that. I don't care what's happening on the internet or what this trend or that trend is. Family is backbone of America, and we got to focus on that. All right, we're out of time for today. I want to thank all of my guests. I talk about all these issues and more in my new book, We've Got Issues. And I don't think anybody disagrees, we've got issues in this country. And the subtitle is How You Can Stand Strong for America's Soul and Sanity. It's available everywhere you can buy books. Log on to drphil.com, and we will see you tomorrow night. Thanks, guys.